last man. We'll spare no one.
They all have to go. The mayor, the city council, and even the dog catcher.
I do care what you do with this information because it is important to our survival as a species. It's important to our planet. It is important for the world.
This door is responsible for literally dozens of Monsanto officials, lobbyists, and consultants finding themselves in positions of authority in the government bodies that are supposedly there to regulate the company and its actions. This list of officials includes Linda Fisher, a senior EPA official who later became Monsanto's VP of Government and Public Affairs, Michael Taylor, Obama's deputy FDA commissioner who also served as Monsanto's VP for Public Policy, and U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who served as a corporate lawyer for Monsanto in the 1970s. These positions of influence have been used to help Monsanto and its biotech peers obtain an FDA ruling which asserts that GMO foods are not substantially different from non-modified foods, win approval for their products from regulators by self-sponsoring studies with almost identical methodologies to the Seralini study that was just retracted, and pass favorable legislation like the Monsanto Protection Act, preventing the company from being taken to federal court in the event that GMOs are discovered to be harmful to human health.
But lesser known as Section 735 of the bill, officially titled the Pharma Assurance Provision, but since nicknamed the Monsanto Rider or the Monsanto Protection Act. The provision protects large biotechnology companies like Monsanto from being taken to federal court should a genetically modified organism be discovered as being harmful to the consumer. Some congresspeople argue that the provision was a necessary concession in order to pass the spending bill to prevent a total shutdown of the federal government.
Genetic engineers, transhumanists, working for the globalist, who in their own words admit, going back to the 1970s, that they had a plan to patent every major food crop and then every major life form, prolific life form on this planet and put artificial genes, genetics, DNA, RNA into them to manipulate viruses, bacteria. And now that's been done with tens of thousands of different species. In some cases, hundreds of different species are being spliced together. You know about spider goats that are part goat, part spider that produce body armor in their milk. You've read about the super salmon that university studies have shown will extinct the normal salmon that are in the ocean. And these salmon, different varieties have been mixed with other fish, insects, plants, the list goes on and on. You see, that's the real thing. You're eating corn, you're eating a GMO potato, and it's had insect genes and other traits added to it. It's had pharmacological traits in the BT corn and other crops where a pesticide is engineered to grow inside the corn to where field mice and insects can't eat it. If they do, they die. But then you are fed this.
You want to have a kid. You have to think about what do you need to do to bring in a healthy child. When it's time to get pregnant and to be pregnant, then you really have to pay attention because little changes in what you consume might have big impacts on your baby. Here's something you may not have considered. Genetically engineered foods. Most people are unaware that genetically modified foods are already in their diet. Genetically modified foods are foods where genes are taken from one species and forced into the DNA of another species. The American Academy of Environmental Medicine said in 2009, every doctor should prescribe non-GMO diets to every patient, citing animal feeding studies and the problems that followed. Mice fed genetically modified corn had fewer babies and smaller babies. Mice fed genetically modified soy had changes in the testicles, including damage to the young sperm cells, and changes in the way that the DNA functioned in their embryo offspring. When rats were fed genetically modified soy, more than half of the babies died within 3 weeks, compared to only a 10% death rate when the mothers were fed non-genetically modified soy. In fact, when the facility switched to genetically modified soy for all of the rats there, the infant mortality rate skyrocketed to over 55%. We don't want our babies to become the guinea pigs of this genetically engineered food experiment.
The researchers followed 200 rats over 2 years divided into 10 groups each of 10 males and 10 females. 3 of the groups were fed Monsanto's patented NK603 GMO corn alone, 3 groups were fed the corn treated with Roundup herbicide, 3 groups were fed Roundup treated water but no GMO corn, and a control group was fed neither GMO corn nor Roundup herbicide. The team's results indicated that the rats fed the Roundup or the GMO corn, separately or combined, were more likely to experience a range of ill health effects than the non-GMO control group.
What these figures show are the large tumours. Each step up represents a large tumour, which can measure 17 millimetres by 17 millimetres. For a rat, these measurements are colossal. It would equate to a tumour of this size if seen on a human being. It is enormous. After having studied these tumours, it can be said that 94% of them take effect in the mammary glands, which would equate to breast cancer in a woman. We are faced with renal tumours for the males, but not only, some males also suffer from mammary tumours.
We have a global ruling class that are playing God and who, quite frankly, don't know what they're doing. I mean, they were able to foresee with their futurists and their think tanks, hiring the top minds in the world, what could be done. But they are endangering the planet itself while constantly distracting the public with fake environmental crises like carbon dioxide that is 0.0360 of the atmosphere. The New World Order, simply put, are people trying to play God. They've studied how humans operate as if they were an alien coming here from a foreign planet. They have funded literally hundreds and hundreds of universities for more than 150 years to study every facet of psychological, spiritual, physical processes that take place. And they have tested and refined incredible tools of social control, propaganda, chemical control through the water and food supply. This is all on record. The globalists have also, for at least 80 years, engaged in lethal chemical and biological as well as radiological tests on prisoners, foster children, military personnel. The list goes on and on. You know about injecting people with syphilis. You know about the horrors of children being radiated by the thousands in atomic studies. You know about forced sterilizations going on right into the 1980s, or at least you should know about that. That is only the tip of the iceberg. And it's being done to test these systems, but also to test the personnel and to create larger pools of individuals that will carry out these type of activities because they enjoy the power, because they believe the end justifies the means. The point is, the global ruling class believe they are a separate species from us and openly write about this. They believe they have transcended the common man and are actively trying to poison and also socially dumb down the general population so that we will fit in to the mold and the typecast that they've made for us. If you look, please, for you and your family's sake and for the future of this planet, and the life forms that developed here over untold eons, there is a total revolution by the, quote, scientific class in their lust for power, in their lust for extended life, in their lust for super weapons to dominate the globe. They have already opened up 1,000 times 1,000 Pandora's boxes. And if you just look at the admitted studies in guinea pigs, rats, mice, dogs, monkeys, where the life cycles are in weeks, months, or years, in every major study within 3 generations with every major GMO crop where they've had cross-species splicing and genetic chimera cross-clone manipulation, in every case within 3 generations, the genitals shrivel up to nothing. Fertility goes down to almost 0.
Up until now, one could have thought that the main cause of death for the tested rats was coming from the pesticide added to the corn. But what the study highlighted, and this for the first time ever, is the fact that the transgenesis itself could have killed the rats. What this means is that just by interfering with the genome of the plant in order to modify it, we are faced with repercussions that no one could have anticipated. This is enough to make us reconsider all the scientific precepts that led to the creation of GMOs.
The real revolution, and why the globalists are so arrogant, is they've created new classes of vaccines. They call them vaccines. That's a diversion. They're really genetically engineered nanotech, and they advertise it. Soon, we've already developed it, but soon we're going to get approval, they say, of a vaccine where you'll never be angry. You'll never be sad, or you'll never want to drink alcohol or use cocaine, because the virus actually goes in and changes your brain chemistry. Listen to me. The facts are in. Please, for your own sake and the sake of our species, let's not let these control freak psychopaths mutilate and vandalize and irrevocably damage the biosphere and the ancient genetic system of this planet so they can be on a power trip and play God. Look at the fruits of the New World Order. Most cancers have more than tripled in the last 2 decades. Diabetes has doubled in the last decade. All sorts of new cancers that never existed before are now appearing. Scores of vaccines have been found to be implanted with sterilants, cancer viruses, microplasms, nanotech microplasms that are purely artificial. The United States has the highest rates of every major cancer in the world, including breast cancer. And the system always talks about giving more money when you buy food or go to a movie to try to create cures for breast cancer, instead of finding out why it's all skyrocketing, why pancreatic cancer is skyrocketing, and why the system's trying to block vitamins and minerals from the public. Again, the globalist might as well be a space alien from 15 trillion miles away who crashed in Antarctica and got dug up and wants to wreck this planet and totally genetically absorb it. Like John Carpenter's The Thing. Might as well be. The globalist covered up the fact that Fukushima was many times Chernobyl and that the radiation levels were rising all across the United States. And so the EPA's response was just to raise the level of isotopes, in some cases 100,000 times what they said was previously safe. This is the type of self-destructive, truly demonic is the only word to describe it, behavior that we see coming out of the ruling class. And it's time for people infected by cynicism and by a hatred of life to really ask yourself, is this what you want to be part of? The things that the globalists create are malformed abominations. The entire biosphere is being absorbed. It may already be irreversible. The life cycle of these rats and mice and guinea pigs is just a few years. And within 3 generations, near total infertility and addled mental retardation, total deformities, stillbirths, just a wreck species. We are eating the same stuff, but on average, we have offspring every 20 years. And already look at the mental retardation, all the new problems, all the new cancers, the diseases, and we are just 1 generation into this. The mercury alone in the vaccines, major study shows, is causing massive, irrevocable DNA damage that we're already seeing in this generation of your 25 years or so. The numbers are off the chart, but it's damaging the eggs of the girls that are being born now. And they've got cadaver studies on young children that have died, young girls, and they've looked at their eggs. They're nearly infertile.